Assalamualaikum and a very good day to our lecturer and fellow classmates. In this video, we will be discussing on the case study of Apple suppliers and labor practices. So let's get started. But first, let's meet the team. I'm Nur Izzati binti Muhammad Arapa and these are my teammates. Siti Khadijah binti Muhammad Yusuf, Raja Nabilah binti Raja Muhammad Khairuddin, and Ainul Hidayah binti Abdul Hadi. Let's start with our first presenter.
I will explain about the summary of the case study. According to Forbes, Apple heads up the technology ranks for the 6th straight years, climbing 2 spots to number 6 on the overall list as surging demand in China helped iPhone sales crush expectations and lifted annual profits to a record 63.9 billion, making Apple the most profitable company in the world. Apple revolutionized personal technology with the introduction of the Macintosh in 1984. Today, Apple leads the world in innovation with iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, and Apple TV. Based on the case study, there are a few issues that need to be highlighted in Apple's company, which is child labor, unsafe working condition, and illegal mining. Apple doesn't have manufactured most of its goods domestically. Most of the component sourcing and factory production is done overseas, especially Indonesia for tin mining, where about 70% of tin is used in electronic devices such as smartphones and tablets. Apple chose to stay with the supplier and defend its practice by having so much control over monitoring and regulating its component sources.
Let's take a look at the interpretation of ethic itself. In the scope of business, ethic refers to the standard for morally right and wrong conduct in business. It specifies the kind of behavior an ethical company should and should not engage in. In undertaking the business, how people judge the company is critical to sustainable success because it is the basis of trust and credibility. It is whether we undertake a small or big company, following ethical principle really matters. In the case of the Apple company pertaining to the issue of tin mining in Indonesia, the best practices that Apple must do is to set the highest standard of labor, human rights, environmental, and ethical conduct. The ethical theories that are related in the issue above is deontological ethic, where this theory emphasizes that action will be considered good or bad based on a clear set of rules in order to determine what is right or wrong, and this theory denies the consequence of the action. For example, in general perspective, we as the customer will be happy when Apple produce its product because they will bring positive impact in terms of technologies. But in the scope of deontological theories, we know that the process of producing new product in Apple violate the human right, which is against the clear set of the rule, which is law. So if Apple do not take any action on this and they continue to engage with their supply chain, so Apple action are considered unethical, as this theory emphasizes on the idea that people should be treated with dignity and respect. The suppliers are obligated to provide safe working conditions, treat workers with dignity and respect, act fairly and ethically, and use environmentally responsible practices wherever they make product or perform services for Apple. According to Mahatma Gandhi, the company that being ethical in business requires acting in the awareness of the need for complying with rules such as law of the land, custom and expectation of the community, principle of morality, policies of the organization, and general concern such as the need of others and fairness. It also deals with how the product, service, and action of a business enterprise can affect its stakeholder either positively or negatively, because the product and service of an organization affect its employees, the community, and the society as a whole.
To answer question number 1, yes, Apple should be responsible for the ethical lapse happening in their supply chain. As a leading tech company that specializes in gadgets, they should set an example to become effective leaders to their own organization. Ethical lapse happen due to the leaders' inability to manage such error, or the leaders themselves are corrupt and oversee such negligence. In Apple case, obtaining tin that was sourced in Indonesia was practice that led others to believe they are sourcing it in unethical manners. Due to the tin mining industry's history in Indonesia that utilize child labor, unsafe and hazardous working conditions, it is arguable that Apple might have obtained the tin sources unethically. Justifying such unethical sourcing where Apple has limited control over the supply chain is irresponsible and unethical. In fact, they have unlimited control over the supply chain, which means they can decide which tin suppliers are ethically mining their tin. By doing a simple background check on the suppliers, Apple could easily obtain such information and make ethical decisions. Therefore, Apple should be more responsible in setting up better standards of their ethical behavior. In this case, Apple needs to ensure that the suppliers remain truthful in performing their tasks and sourcing ethically. Thus, a well-managed supply chain can help the company improve the efficiency of production. Hence, it relies on Apple's leadership and management to redress the issue in order to make sure their products are made in best quality, not just on their product's outcome, but also to thoroughly monitor the process behind it. This is Apple's effort to maintain their relationship in a way that considers social and environmental factors. At the same time, if Apple is responsible for this issue, they are consequently protecting their company against reputation damage that could enhance business growth. In our opinion, yes, Apple should continue to work with the supplier in an effort to change practices. Apple should take this as an opportunity to help the workers to protect their rights and provide better safety by implementing strict safety regulation for the supplier. If Apple is being strict on this towards them, we're sure that the supplier would listen and take action because they would not want to lose the contract since Apple is a huge company. So, there will be a work culture change from unsafe to safer work condition, and the workers too could get their benefits. In actuality, if Apple stopped working with the supplier, there will be no possible change that could happen and make that tin company realize the impact of their unethical conduct. The workers will remain being treated like a slave, and no improvement could be made even after being terminated as a supplier. Hence, Apple's ethical concerns to correct them may reflect positivity to both sides. As the leading tech company, Apple should show good integrity by fighting for workers' rights. This issue could not just simply pass by. An action should be taken because child labor and unsafe working environment are the activities that create conflict with a society's moral principle and considered violating the law. It's important to acknowledge that ethical workplace culture may encourage good employee behaviors that contribute to organizational success, just as unethical workplace culture can result in negative impressions that lead to organizational failure. Furthermore, by implementing such safety culture, Apple at the same time is spreading awareness to other companies to follow such good practices. As what I have said earlier regarding restriction, Apple should put a definite timeline and guideline for the supplier to follow. If they are caught being unethical still, not meeting the right policy and timeline that has been provided for a change in practices, or if they refuse to change their behavior or the way they conduct the business, Apple should definitely terminate them as a supplier at all costs. Even though cutting them off will not have much effect on Apple, it does showcase that by being ethically conscious of their decision-making processes, it will ensure that ethical business conducts are maintained throughout the organization.
To answer this question, in my opinion, consumers should be more aware of the behind the scenes of their purchases because their actions have implications not only to themselves but to other parties as well. Especially in today's modern era where globalization is rapidly evolving and access to information is at the tip of our fingers. Consumers have unlimited access to a vast amount of information for them to identify which organizations are ethically sourcing their resources, how are they treating their employees, how do they manage their production ways, and how do their business affect the environment. All of this information plays a crucial role in determining whether consumers should support those organizations based on their belief systems, ethics, and moral values. For example, the competing brand of Apple, Samsung, is not foreign towards the concept of child labor. They hired and overworked underage employees in China. In some cases, employees at this manufacturer worked 24-hour periods with only 1 day off per month, and the company had hired employees under the legal working age of 16 years. Therefore, it is evident that some of the biggest tech and electronic manufacturers have done some questionable business conduct. Whether consumers continue to support or boycott those organizations, both choices will affect the supply chains of the organizations. The situation is because a rise in boycotts will render the organizations to be more transparent, responsible, and ethical in their practices, resulting in alterations to their supply chains, such as eco-friendly alternatives for their resources, eradicating child labor, and adhering to local labor laws. If the organizations still receive continuous support from consumers, changes in the supply chains will be non-existent. This instance is because organizations feel like they are not doing anything wrong, despite the obvious unethical business conduct. They will blatantly disregard business ethics, laws, and regulations to maximize their own profits. Continuous support of such organizations will not lead to any ethical changes, but perpetuates such unethical practices in the long run. Therefore, as consumers, their actions will decide the impact of businesses and organizations all across the globe. It is vital for them to make the ethical choices when purchasing consumer products.
Another industry that relies on unethical businesses is the cosmetics industry. With the majority of the production of some of the most popular makeup brands in developing Asian countries, the production has been accused of using unethical production methods. To illustrate, the typical makeup ingredients of most shiny lip gloss, eyeshadow and highlighters is mica, which is a natural flaky mineral prevalent in India, where it also has been recognized as the largest producer and exporter of the sheet mica globally for years. Nevertheless, do you know the darkest secret behind this beauty industry? Child labor. It is not uncommon for children to drop out of school because most families live on the edge of starvation and have to rely on their children for income, even though they know it poses a severe threat to children's safety and health. Also, some of them work as young as 4 to help their families. According to the cosmetic business as of 2015, 97% of L'Oreal Indian mica supply chain is secure. L'Oreal is one of the biggest cosmetics brands sourcing mica from India. In 2017, however, L'Oreal was a founding member of Responsible Mica Initiative, supporting the eradication of mine supply chain issues. The goal was also to improve the living and working conditions of the Indian communities dependent on mica for income. From my point of view, I personally think that consumers are not turned off by their track records because most consumers are unaware and uninterested in knowing how, what and where these cosmetics are made from. They are mainly unconcerned about it and they go and buy like usual and act as if nothing had happened. But we cannot simply generalize the whole population of human beings to be ignorant about this issue. There are communities out there who are responsible and aware of the implication of their purchases from organizations with unethical practices.
Yes, a product that was produced under ethically questionable condition affected my decision to purchase it. Before we going further, do you know what does an ethical product mean? It is a product that is not made out of plastic, skin, and it has not been tested on animal. Furthermore, a product that is considered ethical is also ranging from the product that are not done by people who are working too much and maybe getting the process done in bad condition. The meaning of ethical product itself has shown us that unethical products have caused many negative impact toward the living creature. In my opinion, purchasing ethical product is important due to the reason that the process of producing the product does not harm the earth or any living creature. Furthermore, most of the customers prefer to buy sustainable product. There are 4 main pillars of sustainability that consist of human, social, economic, and environmental sustainability. The most related element of sustainability in this case is human sustainability. It focuses on the importance of anyone who directly or indirectly involved in the making of product, as it also emphasizes on the communities around the globe that may be positively or negatively affected by the business activity or may be impacted through method used to source raw material. Human sustainability also encompasses the development of skill and human capacity to support the function and sustainability of the organization and to promote the well-being of the communities and society.
To answer this question, if we were part of a third-party regulating body, we would feel obligated to ensure the multinational corporation compliant with ecological obligation and ethical conduct, because nowadays many companies do splendidly well even though they are not practicing ethical conduct. Besides, we would compel the companies to take notice of violations and take appropriate action. If not, legal action against the company may be taken. The company may pursue to take action by themselves as they do not want any bad reputation and represent themselves as ethical. When confronted with ethical issues, a leader's personal network is most vital. This acts as a rallying point for ideas and possibilities that the leader may not have addressed. It's crucial to remember that the company's approach is not the only way to make ethical judgment, and that even forced choices will have consequences that they must deal with. There are numerous cases where organizations are caught and prosecuted for their unethical business practices. For example, in the case of the BP oil scandal in 2010, the oil spill that occurred in the Gulf of Mexico has led to the explosion and sinking of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig that killed 11 people and caused severe environmental damages. The root of the cause ranged from the gaps in communication, hidden information, corporate negligence, and falsifying information. These unethical practices resulted in massive lawsuits and compensations worth approximately $20 billion. When such cases erupt, one could not simply rely on the organizations themselves to resolve the matter, but it requires interference from regulatory bodies to ensure that organizations are in compliance with the ethical conduct set by the local governing law. Therefore, third-party regulatory bodies are obligated and responsible to uphold ethical business conducts within an organization.
In a nutshell, Apple is the biggest multinational technology company in the world. However, a high-demand business does not define that the company is performing good ethical values. As a market leader and the most successful consumer technology company, Apple carries a specific responsibility to protect the integrity and responsibility of its supply chain. Employee dedication, loyalty, and satisfaction are more likely to be achieved by a organization that adopts ethical ways of doing business operation than the unethical organization, which leads to higher quality of work and greater performance. Like any other organization, Apple is obligated by the law to operate in accordance with stipulated ethics in order to adapt effectively to both internal and external change triggers. We understand that this controversy is critical to Apple, but the way they could cater the issue will determine their current and future success in making the best product in the world.